Another day in the NBA here as our new season kicks off. Today, nice little $8 tournament up top with 100K to first place on DraftKings. We'll do the work that we always do here in the world of Splash Play NBA and compare my projections to one of the industry leaders out there, our friends over at Stokastic. We'll check out the ownership. We'll see what the chalk plays are. We'll run some sims over at Stokastic as well, see what their top ROI lineups are. No interference from me. But at the end of this video, you're going to know all the must plays, your top projected plays, your top value plays for today's slate, the October 24th, Friday NBA slate. God, doing NFL and NBA. I'm spinning right now, but I appreciate all you guys being here. And let's try to have some fun with this one. But I will also be on Live Before Lock today with Stokastic. So if you want to check that out later today, please feel free to do so. If you want some NFL stuff, go check out my NFL videos, because that's what I was just doing for the last hour and 40 minutes or so. So timestamps are good to go on the NFL videos. Take a look over there. But let's go with our top projected players for today's slate. Again, you can see my data here, Stokastic's data. The guys who have zeros are guys who are on the late slate. I am not playing the late slate today. I do have projections updated for that stuff for you guys who are members of the channel, if you are wanting to play the late slate yourself. We got Victor Wembanyama here. 57.8 is my projection. Stokastic has it at 56.9. I will say the early part of the NBA season is like the hardest part data-wise for me to manage, and I think a lot of providers as well, because it's hard to read. You only have one game of sample size, and in general, the rule of thumb in the NBA, you want about 1,000 possessions for these rates, usage, assists, rebound rates, the points people put up, all that stuff. It all stabilizes when you have 1,000 possessions. When you're on one game and it's like, okay, well, Kuminga, like we talked about yesterday, Jonathan Kuminga's rebounding more, he's assisting more. Does he do that again next game, or does he go back to the guy that just gets shots up? It's kind of a question you have to ask over and over again about team after team. So I tried for myself and for you guys that do pay for the projections here, I tried to incorporate like 5x the value of each game. So if teams played one game, as pretty much every team on the slate besides Golden State has, I gave them 5x, and Golden State as well, they've played 2 games. So basically their games for me count like 10 as opposed to everybody else's games that count like 5. So for Wemby, this projection is not really reflecting how nuts he went in game 1, but Wemby like went nuts in game 1. This is really the best way to say it. He had 77.4% true shooting in that game, 36% usage, put up 2.3 fantasy points per minute in his debut this year. Wemby, if you were to give him a sample size that reflects just this season, like he's going to be this guy every game, he would have a projection around 65, 66 fantasy points. And that's was still counting what he did last year, where definitely deferred to guys like De'Aaron Fox, Chris Paul, a little bit more than you'd want overall. But that said, for Wemby at 11-3, he's your top projected guy in the slate. Luka Doncic not in this main slate, and he would be the only one I think who comes close if they were on the same slate. Wemby is a top play despite only being 12% owned, and certainly in a spot here, we got chat saying, think the New Orleans San Antonio game is looking good for DFS. It doesn't look that owned. I think the ownership might end up being a little bit higher by the time we get to lock, but it does look like a very nice game environment overall. Team total here, or game total of 232.5 implied, and San Antonio, slight favorite on the road. Does seem like a good game situation, 1-2, where I don't know who's going to stop Wemby. I don't know who's going to stop Wemby on any team. I especially don't know on New Orleans who would stop Wembanyama. Luka Doncic on the late slate looks pretty good, but I'm not going to talk about late slate games too much. I'll show you them quickly here on screen, but I just can't focus on it with the main slate. Anthony Davis, 51 fantasy points for me. Fields at Stokastic has a projection rather at 52.2. Ownership is expected to be 29% for him. I got him at 22%. I did have to boost Cooper Flag's assist rate a little bit, because that first game he had no assists, and that's obviously not how we expect Cooper Flag's role to be if he's going to be a pseudo point guard for this Dallas team for now. But the big thing with Anthony Davis, he put up 1.45 fantasy points a minute in the debut, maintained his 33% usage rate and change, despite having Cooper Flag in the mix. PJ Washington projects pretty well today. He's going to be another, not as important of a value play as he was the other slate at 3K minimum salary. It's going to come up a lot. But Anthony Davis, another guy where I think because Cooper Flag didn't play that well game 1, projection feels a little bit high for Anthony Davis, a little bit high for PJ Washington. And Cooper Flag did play like dog shit the first game, but he'll shoot better at some point. He'll get more shots up at some point. Not sure if that's tonight, but the AD ownership kind of feels like a reflection of the projection and the fact that Cooper Flag was a little bit disappointing in week 1, or in game 1 rather, not NFL, game 1. Saw 9,100 for Mitchell at point guard. It's an aggressive price up for Davion. Yes, not Davion Mitchell at 9,100. And he's not the chalky Heat player that we're going to talk about today. Spoiler alert for what's to come. Zion Williamson, 10% ownership expected. I've got him at 17% of my top 150. Zion, one of the plays that we got right the other day. He went nuts relative to his salary. Now he's priced up a little bit at 9,300. But he had 1.6 fantasy points in that last game. Everybody else in the team was under one besides Herb Jones, who played a lot of minutes and put up 1.1 fantasy points a minute. Kind of a surprise for a guy like Herb Jones. Still expect Zion to give more usage up to Trey Murphy, to Jordan Poole. Those guys both were at about 20% usage rates compared to the 33.6% that Zion had. But Zion in good shape. The big thing that a lot of players have said when talking about Luka in particular, and we kind of saw it in the Lakers' first game, being skinnier seemingly helps you on defense more than it does on offense. I don't know if that matters when we kind of talk about how we perceive Zion and how he had this one big first game. People will go like, oh, he's skinny and he had a really good game. I think it's mostly that he just has a really good role and has for years when Brandon Ingram wasn't available, when McCollum wasn't available. And now he is your lead guy, and he kind of has to be with where he is in his career. I like Zion today. I think getting 17% of him feels like enough. But there's a lot of guys I think that are in this price range that have similar projections to Zion that I'm willing to take shots on just as much. Even Cade at 6.5% ownership should be another competitive environment for him after not a crazy outlier day last time out in his debut. I don't think Zion's a compellingly great play with his price tag now, where it should have been probably for game one. Cade Cunningham, he had a decent start for himself as well in terms of the underlying usage and all that stuff. A 37% usage rate, 45% assist rate, only 1.3 fantasy points a minute because he shot pretty poorly in that game, including only a 60% free throw hit rate, I guess. For Cade Cunningham, I think the big thing that stands out is it is a competitive game versus Houston. I believe he's also from Houston. Or I know he went to OK State. He's from Texas, no? He's from Arlington, Houston. I think Arlington closer to Dallas. Whatever. He's coming back to Texas. For Cade Cunningham, though, 10K salary, 6.6% ownership. It feels a little bit light. I'm not getting as much of him as some of these other guys, but I do think Cade seems like another good pay-up option on a slate where there are a lot of them to go to. Ja Morant's the one I'm getting the most of in this range, 29% exposure in my top 150, Fields at 6. Morant is a Q tag right now. Obviously, if he is out, that is going to change things pretty substantially on the slate. You'll get guys like Cedric Coward being potentially one of the top values. Jaren Jackson would look better. Really, everybody else on the team would look a lot better. For Ja Morant, at this point, 8,900, he had a 36% usage rate in that first game, 1.5 fantasy points per minute. That's Ja Morant, and he played 29 minutes in that first game, and there's room for him to play more in a competitive spot. Ja Morant, I think, looks like a strong play today, though. Feels like a pretty aggressive stand for me to have 6x the field, to be honest. Anthony Edwards, another late slate play. Doesn't really matter for this slate, but he does have a 45.6 projection for me on DraftKings. Karl-Anthony Towns, disappointed a little bit in that first game, but we had outlier efforts, in particular from OG Anunoby. Bridges played a little bit above his head as well. Would expect it to flow a little bit more back Towns and Jalen Brunson's way. Towns, 8,700. I have him at a 45 projection. Stokastic has him at 40. That said, I'm still not getting him a lot. Only 13% for me. Fields at 4. Alperen Şengün, Donovan Mitchell, your next two guys here. Robert from the Turd says Şengün seems light after it seemed like the O went through him. It is still a longer-term sample size for a larger period of time, so that's the big thing. Even with Şengün playing well, his fantasy points per minute weren't really that crazy. He was at like 1.3 and change, which... 1.39, and he had 1.28 last year, and that's with him shooting fairly well, hitting more threes than he ever hit in his career. I don't know that Şengün feels like the stickiest spot overall. Pause. I don't. He's not coming up a lot projection-wise. If you want to chase it, you can. There's like a lot of guys to chase from game one, though. And Donovan Mitchell here, 17% expected ownership, Fields at 11. So Mitchell going to be more owned than Şengün, more owned than Towns in the similar range here of projections for me. Devin Booker looking good in the late slate too. Let's sort by value here. So Colin Gillespie, late slate. Walter Clayton, late slate. These guys looking pretty good as values. Unfortunately, they're not on the slate that we're playing here, so the less said, the better. Walter Clayton, though, went nuts in game one. Averaged 1.5 fantasy points a minute in his stint. Was obviously a top value play, as we talked about. He's now no longer 3K. He's all the way up to 4,500. Andrew Wiggins is your value of the day, or your priced appropriately play of the day, I suppose. 56% expected ownership for him. I got him at 51. The projection in minutes is 32. Let's go to our first time looking at popcorn machine for the year. But let's see how that looked for Wiggins. I did not check this out before the show. Wiggins' last game started. Picked up 2 fouls fast. Still played 32 minutes in that game, despite the early 2 fouls. Put up 18 points, 6 peripherals. Not a bad opportunity for him. The minutes, though, seem like they could get potentially to 33, 34, maybe 35. And Wiggins, going back to last year, was pretty good. He produced overall, including the Golden State time period, produced 1.05 fantasy points a minute, including 24% usage. Was down a little bit in game one, only 20% usage and a 0.9 fantasy points a minute, but that's just one game. For Andrew Wiggins, he's not a very fun play, not a very sexy play, but he is a top value here who seems just a little bit too cheap. We're not at PJ Washington levels of cheapness from the first slate, but we are pretty cheap for him relative to a guy playing 32 minutes, maybe 34, maybe 35. PJ Washington played a lot of minutes game one as well. 5K salary for him is up from that 3K. That was not correct. I'm still getting these guys both at 51% for Wiggins, 53% for Washington. Washington is a little bit lower owned by the field at 31% expected by Stokastic, but at 5K, a little bit too cheap for a guy who is, much like Cooper Flagg, a lead ball handler for a team without a true point guard for a good amount of time that it plays in the court. D'Angelo Russell could theoretically take minutes away from these guys, but then really doesn't take minutes away from Washington, just kind of moves them to a different part of the lineup. Donovan Clingan, late slate, looks fine. Jock Landale playing for Memphis now. Last game for him, he played 25 minutes and he did not close. I believe because he had foul trouble, right? Yeah, 1 foul, 3. Yeah, he actually fouled out, it looks like. So he would have probably played 30 minutes, put up a 10 points, 5 peripherals last game. For Jock Landale, he's a starter. You still have Brandon Clark out, still have Zach Edey out. Once those guys come back in, the situation's not the same. But Jock Landale at 4,200, minutes projection feels a little bit light, and he is also a guy that seemingly starting role value, not a lot of true value starters on this slate. 25% expected ownership. I got him at 35% for me in my top 150. Cedric Coward, another guy in that Memphis rotation who would stand to get a few more minutes if we got Ja Morant out. But you had Javon Small, Cedric Coward as your backup guys, as you can see in these rotations here. Coward put up 14 points, did close the game as well with Landale unavailable to play, so maybe a little bit of a push-pull dynamic where you don't want to play both Landale and Coward in the same lineup. In general, the rule of thumb for NBA DFS, which is like a simple thing to keep in mind, you want to have guys that are going to close ideally, even if they don't start. For Coward and Landale, if they both kind of are competing for the same part of that closing 5 group, that's not great for them to play them together. But Cedric Coward here as a value, only 17.8 minute projection, but 8% ownership. I got him at 26. Not the kind of play I'm married to in any real way. And if any actual value opened up, Cedric Coward would come down. Stephon Castle. So if you're not playing Wemby, I think playing Stephon Castle would be an interesting move. Castle put up 31% usage in that last game. Really consolidated usage between Wembanyama, Castle, and Dylan Harper, who I said would get up a lot of shots. He put up a 35% usage rate, which was right next to Wemby at 36% and change. The Castle at 31, also a 28% assist rate. In that one game, he had 1.4 fantasy points per minute. And going back to last year, Castle's now averaging 1.1 fantasy points per minute overall. Castle, solid play at 6,800, even though the price tag's a little bit aggressive. Getting him at 38% feels fine to me. Fields at 9, and hopefully he doesn't get hurt like our other point guard who looked pretty good for me yesterday, Andrew Nembhard. Ben Sarath and Igor Demine competing competing for the same point guard minutes, which is a little bit tough. Brooklyn also doing the same shit they did last year where none of the starters are playing real minutes. Saraf only projected for 21 here. He will shoot better than he did in the debut, but he contributed rebounds, contributed assists. He's got good size on him. Ben Saraf also, I will say, let me see if we get the image here. One of the least flattering Google images ever, if you could see his skin in this one. Let's see if this opens up. Just like the worst acne ever for a photo. I feel so bad for him for this photo being one of the first thing that comes up. I mean, hopefully he doesn't have like a medical condition that I'm like now saying, but I was like, oh man, because I was looking up just info about Ben Saraf because he's projecting so well for me. I was like, ooh, that's a tough one for your top image. Either way, for Ben Saraf though, starting point guard role, did shoot less 3-pointers than Igor Demine did hit less than Demine did as well, where Demine played hot, Saraf played cold. Saraf at 4,100, I think, is a better value in my opinion than Cedric Coward, even though I got Saraf less. I think it's an interesting value play. It's just the Nets minutes are going to be kind of shitty. I don't know if Ben Saraf, well, I don't know the status of Israeli guys getting pussy. I don't know. I don't know what that's about, but sure. Najee Marshall, 3,700, another guy here getting decent minutes as a value for Dallas. 23 minutes is the expectation here. The big thing, though, is that Cooper Flagg, my projection for him is pretty light. I think that's flowing away from Najee Marshall a little bit, or flowing towards Najee Marshall, flowing towards PJ Washington, floating towards Anthony Davis, because Cooper Flagg won't be as bad as he was in his debut, and that's sort of the issue at the beginning part of a year for rookies in particular. Until they show they're good, the data, at least the way that I create mine, it doesn't know that guys are good. So I've tried to get Cooper Flagg to like respectability in my data, but I think because he played so shittily in game one, Najee Marshall and PJ Washington, and I guess, he's going to be owned by the field too, with 19% for Marshall and 31% for PJ Washington. I think these guys are a little bit over projected because Cooper Flagg just didn't look good in that first game, and that means that the numbers get skewed slightly, and just enough, I think, for these guys to look like a little bit off. We're going to go game by game, though, here. We've gotten top projected. We've gotten the values. Of course, we'll do a sim without my data involved as well. But guys, show some love if you can. Number one, subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Of course, here we're fighting the YouTube algorithm for a video that doesn't have a super long evergreen shelf life. But I'm just one dude here showing you my gambling across NBA, across NFL. Of course, with my best foot forward using information I've gathered from my time running Football Outsiders for football, working at Stokastic since 2018. And of course, having my own success in DFS. That's what I try to bring as best I can to the table here every day, Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. for these NBA videos. And hit that like button, subscribe, join the channel as well if you want to get access to my projections. It's $5 to support the show. But also, if you join the Squirt Squad tiers, either of them, you get either the data I show you on screen, all the stats, and my projections, or you get the ones you can actually export yourself and use in an optimizer or on the Sims on whatever site you want. So check it out. Link down below. Just join the channel. And then it's pretty easy to do it. Just join the Discord, and it all syncs up very easily when you do. Head Stokastic too. Their data 15% off. Link down below. Support the show because half the money you pay to them does come back to me. Atlanta, 115.5 implied. This should be a fast one. Nobody here looking that good in my projection set. I am a little bit lighter on Trae Young than Stokastic is at 44. Porzingis looked good for his first game. Looked back to usual. Put up, I believe, actually I have it over here. He put up 1.39 fantasy points per minute in his debut, 68% true shooting. So for a guy that could not stand up last year, or at the end of last year, I guess with his post-COVID syndromes, I don't really know what it was called. POTS, I know that, but I think it was somehow tied to post-COVID stuff. That said, for him, he looks back to usual here. His heart rate was spiking exponentially just from like standing up last year. That's to blame for why he was so dog shit. But you look at these numbers here, 25% usage, good rebound rate, decent assist rate, good shooting. That's old Porzingis. So I think let's try to treat him as such if you do want to play him on tonight's slate. These guys are all pretty expensive. Orlando does have a decently high team total, and it is a pace down spot in a pretty major way for Atlanta, but maybe Orlando gives into the pace and moves a little bit faster. The totals here are pretty decent for Atlanta and Orlando. So Orlando, a team normally I don't want to go against very much defensively, but not a bad total for Atlanta. The price tags just seem off for a defense that, last year at the very least, we would hold in some esteem. Orlando on their side, you got a lot of usage going for Desmond Bane. In fact, he led the team in usage in that first game of 29.8%. But Banchero kept 28 for himself. Franz Wagner down to 24. But these guys are all high usage alpha players on the team. That's not really a spot where I want to pay for these guys. Desmond Bane looks the best to me. Well, I guess Franz Wagner also okay, $7,600 salary, getting him in 21% of my top 150. Desmond Bane getting at 16%. Banchero, though, I am under the field on. They have 25% ownership in Stokastic's data. I got 12. Tyus Jones, another one that Stokastic is pushing as a value today at 3,500. Playing 22 minutes, 33% ownership. I got a lot less. Probably in part because he was so awful in the debut. He averaged only 0.3 fantasy points per minute, but also seemingly did not hit a shot. He'll hit some shots, but I don't think he's a great play with Suggs available, Anthony Black available. I really don't see Tyus Jones a value play. I want it 1/3 of my lineups. Cleveland, 120.8 implied. Brooklyn, Brooklyn a 12-point dog at home. That's brutal. Sorry, trying to line this up. There we go. That's good enough. For Donovan Mitchell, usage was high for him in his debut, 37% usage. Evan Mobley at 28%. Jared Allen was awful out there, did absolutely nothing, only 0.5 fantasy points per minute. That should level out a little bit, though. DeAndre Hunter expected back in today. We'll see if he actually plays. But the total's not bad for Cleveland. I'm under the field on Mitchell, 11%. The field's at 17. Mobley, I'm at 12. Fields at 13. Jarrett Allen getting a little bit of because he won't be that bad again. I got 17% of my top 150. The field's at 7. But you could take these guys off the slate, and it really wouldn't matter that much to me. Cleveland doesn't look like a very fun team to play with today. Cam Thomas, a respectable debut. He didn't go nuts usage-wise, though. Only 28% usage, shot 51% true shooting, which is under average. Michael Porter Jr., also terrible, but did get some assist upside in game 1. 33% assist rate, but shot only 38% true shooting. He'll do better, but the big thing is that none of these guys project for over 30 minutes. In their first game, I don't believe anybody played above 30. That's not where you want your fantasy players to be. It does limit upside a little bit. Still think that Ben Saraf, not a bad value, assuming he starts again. If Igor Demine starts, I would take that shot on him. He played really well, but unsustainably well. 102% true shooting is crazy because he hit like all of his shots and also hit a bunch from deep. So Igor Demine, nice shooting for one game, but he and Ben Saraf, like I said before they debuted, they're like very similar players. They both rebound a little bit, both assist a little bit, and it's a crowded rotation, so it's tough to expect a lot of upside. The Nets are just a stupid organization right now. I don't really know what they're trying to accomplish. Play the young guys a lot of minutes is what I would do, because they actually would be pretty fun fantasy prospects if they did. And real-life basketball prospects, maybe. But they both look like shitty Josh Giddey, kind of. But Demine shot well, so maybe he'll be better, Josh Giddey. Boston, 113 implied points here. New York, 116.5 on their side. Jaylen Brown, bit of a dud game 1. I didn't give these guys any boosts in usage for Jason Tatum being off because I really don't want to be on Jaylen Brown Island again. For game 1, it was 27%. Jaylen Brown usage here. Derek White, 27.9% usage. Peyton Pritchard at 20. Pritchard was the worst producer at 0.76 fantasy points per minute, but water will find its depth. These guys will get something closer back to what they did last year when Tatum was off the court. For right now, though, Boston is a little bit of a mess of a team, and I think they'll be competitive. I think in this spot, they're only 3.5-point dogs. But it's not really anything too crazy. More than 100% true shooting seems untrue. It's because it's weighted. So if you hit threes, that counts as more. Free throws also count into it. So he hit a bunch of shots. So you can have more than 100% true shooting if you just hit a bunch of high value shots. You might be joking, but just in case anybody doesn't get that, that is why. New York, 116.5 implied points on their side. Towns is the only one I'm really getting here, but Brunson, after he lost, really missed a lot of shots, but still had 31% usage and a 24% assist rate in game 1. You can go back to him as well. Really, Towns and Brunson, I just think buying back on them today after Anunoby and Bridges had real outlier days, in my opinion. But it could be Mike Brown's new situation there, trying to get Anunoby and Bridges more deserving of the immense amount of money they're getting paid. A little bit of a fluid situation to me, I think. But I like Towns still taking that shot there. He lost a few minutes of foul trouble last game. Still rebounded at a good clip. Looked good. I agree. Could be a smash spot versus Cat because there's really nothing at center here. And it's getting worse with Luka Garza being banged up too. I like Cat here. I'm surprised I'm not getting more, to be honest, but I have a 45 projection on him. Stokastic has him at 40. Detroit, 109.3 implied points. Houston, 115.8. Again, Cade plays well when he comes back to Texas. That's not a data point, not always going to be the case, but that is where he's from. And I thought Cade got a lot of opportunity in game one. 37% usage, 44.5% assist rate. You're talking about him taking more than 80% of the possessions when he's on the court. It's a massive amount of upside if things flow his way. That said, for Houston, it seems like you're going to get Amin Thompson back in after he had cramps in the opener. That's not great. The defense is going to trap and make it hard on Cade, much like it did for SGA. So Cade, only 6.6% ownership. I see the tournament upside, but the Houston defense, I think, is worrisome. Jalen Duren went nuts in game one, averaged 1.45 fantasy points a minute. Maybe he could do it against Şengün. 7,400, though, I don't think I'm going to be there very much to find out. Only 3% ownership for me. Asar Thompson coming in a little. Tobias Harris coming up a little, but nobody here. An important play. Duncan Robinson, decent value at 4,400 and shooting guard. Small forward eligibility. Houston on their side, nobody is above a 5x value for me besides Steven Adams. Alperen Şengün, though, if you gave him his one-game performance where he shot the lights out with 68% true shooting and 1.4 fantasy points a minute, he would come up a little. And I do think Şengün visually looked pretty good. But, he wasn't, I think, in terms of the overall stats, he didn't do anything that was outside of the norm for him. So him at 9,400, Durant at 9,200. I just don't know what you're paying for there in terms of the projection. Neither guy grades out that well. Steven Adams is a value, 26% owned. I got him at 25. Not a super compelling play, but he does play a lot of minutes with Houston, going with the dual big lineups a lot. Capella too, also in the mix, but definitely playing a lot less than the other two bigs. Miami here, we talked about the chalky Andrew Wiggins for the 115 implied points. Miami has Wiggins, not an exciting play, but still a guy that does project well and for a lot of minutes at 5,800 and with small forward, power forward eligibility. Bam Adebayo, I got 25% as well in the top 150 for me in the sim. Stokastic has him at 28% owned. Bam looks solid here. He played pretty well last time out. In terms of usage and rebound rate, did not get great results on the shooting. As a result, he had 0.9 fantasy points a minute, but with no Tyler Hero out there, things should be good for Bam at some point. Norman Powell played like a different player. He got some assists. He rebounded a little bit, put up 1.35 fantasy points a minute. I would say if Wiggins fails today, it's probably because Powell and Adebayo did a little bit better and played closer to what we saw, that in that debut. And Davion Mitchell, 48% assist rate in that first game. He was distributing in a real way. It's mostly how the offense is being run, because you can see Drew Smith, the backup point guard, also had a 46% assist rate. I'm not going to get a lot of Davion Mitchell today at 6K, but he did go nuts last time out, and there is a reason for it, with the assist rate being so high. Memphis, 117.5 implied points. Again, Ja Morant looking like an important play for me with 29% of my lineups in the field at 5.9. Jock Landale, good value. Jaren Jackson, if you got Ja Morant sitting today, would look a lot better, but still getting him at 11% of my lineups. The field's at 4.4. Morant and Jaren Jackson went nuts in game one with 1.5 fantasy points from Morant per minute. Jaren Jackson at 1.44. Cedric Coward produced that 1.1 and change. Sorry, I had something in my throat there. Coward, another one, though, who shot way too hot in that debut. So bumping Coward down in my ownership is probably going to be a thing I try to do unless we get Ja Morant out. But really, the offense, if Morant and Jackson are both playing, it should flow through them. Miami defensively, I'm not sure a team that we're worried about. And definitely a pace down for Memphis, but they're really thinned out at this point from the guys that are gone on the team. Everything seems like it's going to flow through Morant and Jaren Jackson. Maybe Santi Aldama kicks in a little bit more at some point. Shout out Humboldt here. What's up, Spags? Heading to Washington listening to the show. I appreciate that. Hopefully Washington has DFS available for you. But I appreciate all you guys watching here. Again, we're going to get to the Sims without my data involved in a moment. We're getting through the game by game. Show some love if you can to us. Subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. It goes a long way for me here. Just one dude fighting the YouTube algorithm as best I can every day. Fists up It's a YouTube algorithm. And of course, join the channel, support the show. Stokastic, 15% off link down below. Discord, $5 to join. My data as well. If you join the Squirt Squad tiers, you get access to it through the Discord as well. But please do support the show if you can. Again, that's the only way I could continue doing the show as much as I would like to, 5 days a week at 2 p.m. Eastern. Was with you guys hitting that like button, subscribing, and hopefully putting some money towards the cause here with the various ways that you can. San Antonio, 118.3 implied points. Nolans, 114.3 on their side. Pretty even-paced matchup, at least relative to numbers going back to last year. For Wemby, he shot unsustainably well in week 1 with 77% true shooting, 2.3 fantasy points a minute. Also absolutely not going to happen. Even if he is one of the best players in the world, you will find him more like 1.8, 1.9 fantasy points a minute. 2+ is like impossible. That said, I've got him at 1.72 today, so coming down to earth, and he still projects for 57.8 fantasy points. So Wemby, to me, being above the field, if he's only going to be played 12%, I think it's a great thing. I do worry this ownership is a little bit light. I think people are going to be excited to play Wemby in this really perceived soft matchup versus New Orleans, and it is perceived to be a soft matchup for a good reason. For Stephon Castle, though, he's got high usage as well, only 9% ownership. These spots I like more. Castle's always a guy who loves to gun when it is a depleted guard group. You have no Fox now. Chris Paul's gone. So these guys, I think, get all the run they want at guard with Castle and Dylan Harper. I think if you're not going to play Wemby, you should consider Castle and Harper more seriously. But, Vassell can heat up a little bit. He only had 20% usage in that first game, but it should flatten out a little bit between Castle, Harper, and Vassell. Keldon Johnson, too, will get more shots up. Harrison Barnes is probably just who he is at this stage. Champagne, it's a lot of ownership for him with 19% and me getting 23. But you need some value somewhere. So Spurs, just an appealing team. New Orleans, not a team we expect to be particularly good defensively, though Herb Jones being back does make it a little bit tighter. In New Orleans on their side, getting 17% Zion, Fields at 10. Definitely want to be there some amount on Zion with him averaging 1.6 fantasy points a minute last year. I've got him at so far this year rather, got him at 1.52 today. But, decent assist rate for him, 34% usage. Numbers look good for Zion. Price tag is definitely up a good amount though. FanDuel, everything more expensive on FanDuel. That's why Ryan, that's why we play the DK games. But yeah, no, like obviously with blocks, the premium there is going to be a little bit higher. Jordan Poole, he'll shoot more than the 18% usage he got in game 1. That said, he's not going to be the same player. I don't think he's worth 7K. Got him at 9% though, which sucks. That's definitely reflecting the longer term sample size than I think what his role is going to be in New Orleans. Trey Murphy Fields at 18. I'm at 11. Sadiq Bey Fields at 14. I'm at 12. He's $4,100. He's not a bad value. Did get meaningful minutes that last game with him finally being back to full health. But New Orleans, to me, Zion seems like the key thing. Poole and Murphy, if you get him, fine. Herb Jones, if you want to chase the 1.1 fantasy points per minute he got this first game of the year, you can. Not the most fun spot, though, besides Zion. Washington, 108.8 implied. I had a lot of Chris Middleton last time out. I'll get a decent amount here again, 13% for me. Fields at 3.5. He put up 1.2 fantasy points in that revenge game, I guess, versus Milwaukee. But Chris Middleton, the guy who produces pretty well. And he frankly could play better if the guys actually hit shots because he's been assisting at a decent enough clip. CJ McCollum, he shot terribly in his debut, 31% true shooting. But I got him at 12.7%. He's got a lot of opportunity to get shots up. Keyshawn George played well in the preseason, played well last game. A little bit hard to project relative to what he's done historically. He averaged 1.37 fantasy points per minute. He definitely does a lot. He gets steals, he gets rebounds, gets assists, does chuck a little bit. But McCollum's going to shoot more. Sarr's going to shoot more. Don't really want to chase Keyshawn George right now. The projection's not there. Trey Johnson comes up a little bit. He had 1.1 fantasy points last game too. Look, Washington is a team where I think there's playable guys, and on some slates you might get them. I don't think today's the day, though. Dallas, PJ Washington we talked about as well, the only Washington we want to play. He's getting up in 53% of my top 150 lineups. The Field's at 31. Cooper Flagg, I am not getting to. I juked his assist rates and not juke his shooting, but I'm still only getting him at 30 fantasy points. Stokastic has him at 37. Cooper Flagg looks downright expensive at 7,100. He is point guard and small forward. He's going to shoot better than 36% true shooting, but I don't know that you want to find out when the field's going to allegedly be there for a third of the ownership. It was not bad usage for Flag last game, 23%. He rebounded okay at the 17% rebound rate. I gave him a 15% assist rate just to try to get him to respectability here. But I just don't see it for Cooper Flag today. But like I mentioned, though, like I think I'm overprojecting Najee by a little bit, by like 0.9 relative to Stokastic. I think I'm overprojecting Anthony Davis, even though I'm lower than Stokastic. I think I'm overprojecting PJ Washington because like those stats are going to go Cooper Flag's way at some point. But for right now, he doesn't look like the right play for me today. And shout out Sotex being here. Glad to see that. But appreciate all you guys watching live here. For you people who want to see the late slate stuff, here's my numbers for it. Stokastic data was not available for it before the show. But here's what I have. I'll just scroll through fast. Utah guys, nothing I would want to chase. Ace Bailey, awful debut shooting-wise. Sacramento, if Sabonis is in, I don't know how you want to play these guys very much either. Minnesota, Anthony Edwards looks fine. Shot like a motherfucker in that first game, though. DiVincenzo, nice debut. 1 fantasy point per minute for him. Jaden McDaniels, 1.2 in his debut. Luka, 1.8 fantasy points per minute. Looks great. A little expensive, though. Austin Reeves, DeAndre Ayton. I think the projection's kind of high for him. That's how it looks for the late slate. But let's run a sim now on Stokastic. Let's take my numbers out of the equation. And let's just see what they have for us over there. So next stage of the process, guys. We got 5,000 lineups being built here on Stokastic. And of course, if you want access to their data, to their Sims products, the expensive stuff, the cheap stuff, it's all 15% off. Link down below. Use that promo code SPLASH. And then 15% off is in perpetuity as well. So they have some deals going where it's like 20% off. It's usually only for the first month. Or for the 15% off, it's every month. So it's a really nice deal. Click that link. Use promo code SPLASH down below. Or even if you want to do one of their other deals, just click the link. It'll attribute it to me, and then you can take whatever deal you want to do over there. But a great way to support the show because half the money you pay to them does come back to me. So please, for the love of God, do that. We're having a good affiliate month right now. Though not a lot of people converted from their $1 deal for me. So I'm hoping that maybe that's delayed or something. There's a lot of signups for the $1 deal. I think DraftKings needs to give us like $5 tournaments every day. And then I'll get more signups. They'll get more signups. Everybody wins if DraftKings is just willing to give us $5 tournaments every day. Because that was so many views on Wednesday. And like yesterday, obviously there was football too. But I had less views. Today I'm sure it'll be probably slightly more than yesterday, but definitely not as much. So I'd love to see it personally. But you know, I might be slightly biased. And I also just like putting in 50 entries and going like, well, this is more than I'd like to spend. But I think it just makes sense for me. Daniel Gafford officially out, it looks like. I don't think there's anything else noteworthy, though. All right, Sim looking good to go here. All right, we got number 1 ROI lineup. Javon Small back in it. Javon Small played minutes for Memphis last time out. Let's go back to the popcorn machine here. He played 19 minutes, did not really get shots up. Cedric Coward, again, killed it. Shot really well for the amount of time he played out there. Javon Small was a guy that did get usage and assists at college, so I don't mind going back to him here, but it did seem like out of the bench guards for Memphis, Coward seemed more like a dude for the debut. Small, a little bit less like a real dude. Small, though, I think if Morant were out, I think you would absolutely get to Small no matter what. With Morant in, I don't really love it. But Javon Small's in the top ROI lineup. Desmond Bane, former Grizzly, in it as well. Franz Wagner. What? So Bane, Wagner, and Banchero. A magic stack here is at number 1. Steven Adams in this one. Klay Thompson makes this one. PJ Washington makes it as well. Anthony Davis. So an Orlando triple, a Mavs triple. That is a weird top ROI lineup. Your number 2 ROI lineup, according to Stokastic data here. You got Cooper Flag, Desmond Bane, Franz Wagner, Andrew Wiggins. Jock Landale makes this one. These 2 players I like a good amount. They'll definitely, projection-wise, would get into a lot of my lineups. Julian Champagny, Anthony Davis makes it. Steven Adams makes it again. Number 3, Ja Morant. Guy did come up a lot in my data. Peyton Pritchard, Andrew Wiggins, Paolo Banchero makes it again. Goga Bitadze makes this one. That feels way too thin. Cooper Flag, PJ Washington, Steven Adams as our value. Stokastic loving Steven Adams as a value. Number 4 lineup is Tyus Jones, Julian Champagny, Andrew Wiggins makes it again. Banchero again. Anthony Davis again. Peyton Pritchard again. Michael Porter Jr., who did get some more assists in his Brooklyn debut. It's definitely noteworthy. And PJ Washington makes it. Huh. Okay. Number 5, Peyton Pritchard, Desmond Bane, PJ Washington, Michael Porter Jr., Jock Landale, Jalen Brunson, who is definitely due to play better with the amount of usage and assists he had in that last game. Bam Adebayo, Steven Adams. I like Adebayo in a lineup without Wiggins. I think that makes sense production-wise, that if something flows more Bam's way, it's going to be less for Wiggins as super chalk. But this is a lot of Steven Adams. 4 out of the top 5 lineups, Steven Adams. Highest ROI players right now, they're all negative numbers, but Jock Landale and the directional accuracy of the sim is what we're concerned about here. Jock Landale, the top ROI player. Steven Adams, number 2. PJ Washington, number 3. Paolo Banchero, number 4. Franz Wagner, number 4. Paolo Banchero, number 5. They love Orlando here. Bitadze at 6. Desmond Bane, not too far behind either. It is like a pretty big pace up / theoretically a defensively soft matchup for Orlando. That's a lot. Like, you're still paying kind of like last year Banchero and Wagner prices, because like Bane's going to take a lot away. Sorry to go backwards off topic. Do we figure out why DiVincenzo didn't play the fourth quarter of that game? I did not pay enough attention to it, and he's not on the main slate today, so it doesn't really impact me too much. But if I were to look really fast at the popcorn machine, let's see. He had a foul, but that was earlier. Wasn't in foul trouble. They were playing well when he came out. I think it's just this, like when he would have had his last stint, they were kind of making their run. So he came out a little bit early here so they could get Conley in. Then when Conley would have normally come out for DiVincenzo, they brought Gobert in instead. And went with a Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, Randall, Jalen Clark, Bones Highland. That's why. Bones Highland took a stint here. So that's just it. He should get back to it, but, you know, that's when you have players that are not key parts of a team, they get jerked around sometimes. That's sort of how that goes. Highest exposed players in Stokastic's top 150. Let's close it out with this. 89% exposure for Andrew Wiggins, 56% for the field. So massive stand for Wiggins here in terms of the NBA DFS. No uniques sim we got going. 32% leverage more than the field. PJ Washington, 54% exposure, fields at 32, so that is 22% leverage for him. Anthony Davis, 51% exposure, fields at 28. That is 22% leverage here. So even though they project Cooper Flagg really well, they're giving you the other Mavs a good amount. I guess the matchup with Washington is getting a little bit slower in pace, though, so I don't know. It's odd to see this much Dallas. Steven Adams, they're giving you 47% exposure to the top 150. Fields at 26. That is 20% leverage on the field. And Jock Landale, who I do think is a very solid value play, 46% exposure in Stokastic's top 150. Fields at 24% ownership. So it's about 22% leverage. Overall, highest leverage, guys. Wiggins, 32% more in the field. Massive stand with him being in about 9 out of 10 lineups. Jock Landale, 22% more in the field. Anthony Davis and PJ Washington, also about 22% more in the field. And Franz Wagner, 20.4% more in the field. Steven Adams, not too far behind either. Pretty consolidated chalk here for Stokastic. Negative exposure, actually negative leverage plays. Sorry, clicking the wrong thing like an idiot. Evan Mobley, negative 11% leverage. Stokastic doesn't want you to play him at all in the top 150. The field's at 11. Negative 10% leverage for Sadiq Bey. He is barely being played here. Don't think he's a bad play, but I don't think he should be a very chalky play. 15% ownership seems fine for him, but the sim is fading him. Nikola Jovic, 4% exposure, fields at 13. That is negative 9% leverage. Donovan Mitchell, 9% exposure, fields at 18. So you're getting half the field's amount of Donovan Mitchell. And Cedric Coward, who, much like Igor Demine, unsustainably hot shooting for game one. You don't want to play those guys in their projection because they're just not likely to shoot 100% plus of true shooting. So Cedric Coward, Stokastic is barely playing at all. And they are playing Javon Small, 3%, but also fading him a little bit too. All right. I think it's a video, guys. We kept it under 45 minutes, which I think is a nice length for this video. I won't do a single lineup sim for the sake of this, unless I'll give you guys 30 seconds to vote. If I get 10 ones, put one in the chat. If you want me to do a hand build, I'll do it. If not, I can cap the video at 45 and maybe that'll give us some more views. So chat, now is your chance. If you wanted to see me do a single lineup sim, put in a one in the chat. And if not, I'm calling it a day and giving you my splash plays. I'll wait here. Oh, we're getting some ones. All right. You guys like a single line? Should I always do a single lineup sim? I guess I don't always have time. But on a shorter slate. All right, we got some Unos. All right. All sorts of languages. Fine. We'll do a single lineup sim here. All right. Can't always guarantee a single lineup sim, but for today, we can make it work. Where's the single lineup simulator? Make time. Fuck you. I'll make time today. Again, it's like always a balancing act of like, I would like these videos to be shorter than an hour. If in a perfect world, I could do them in 30. It'd probably help the views out a little bit, but I do want to make sure I'm giving you guys enough meat on the bone here. All right, I'm going to put Wemby in. I like Wemby in this spot. When I have time, all right. So when I have time and we're safely under an hour, I'll try to get him in. I think that's a fair way to look at it. But I appreciate the feedback, guys. Always good to get live feedback in real time. All right, so we're going to go Wemby as my first play in. I think I'm just going to drop Wiggins in as well. We know the sim likes him, and he does project incredibly well for me. I'm going to go look at my own projections too and see who I want to get in here. I'm going to go Landale as well. Again, I think Landale is solid value here. I guess they could always go small, potentially, and just go Jaren Jackson at the 5. But the fact Landale fouled out last game and could have gotten 30 minutes, I think that's noteworthy. So we're going to go with a Wemby Landale center spot, so no more centers available for us. Point guard. I think my data likes Peyton Pritchard more than Stokastics does. It feels a little point chasey for Stephon Castle. But I like Stephon Castle. I'm going to go him. I really think the Spurs should not have re-signed De'Aaron Fox and should be trying to get rid of him right now. I think they made a promise to him when they traded for him that they were going to give him the big deal, and they didn't want to break it because that does ruin the relationship a little bit. But I just really don't think they need Fox at this point. And it's only one game, obviously, but what I saw from Fox last year, I think they could survive without that guy. All right, 54.75 left per spot. Herb Jones feels a little bit aggressive. Trey Johnson, Stokastic does not have as a great play. I have hair in my face and it won't leave my face. Sorry, guys. All right, what do we got? Nothing of value. I like Ben Saraf, but I don't think the sim is going to like Saraf. Can I get Saraf in? Is he a shooting guard? He's point guard only. I'm going to go to Saraf. But they have him as a fucking 12.6 projection? He played 22 minutes. And he started. Oh, whatever. All right, we can't play Saraf. They project him like ass. All right, you know what? I got 4 players in for myself. Let's let the sim. We'll put 15% randomness on. Complete the lineup for me. All right, we got Najee Marshall makes it. Jaylen Brown makes it. PJ Washington makes it. Okay, I should have known that. Klay Thompson makes it. I don't love that. Wiggins, Jock Landale. I put 35% to first. Well, let's see what we got. All right, 23% ROI. I think that's enough. But really right away, the Stokastic projections, even with the randomness on, did immediately jam in PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, and Klay Thompson. So, 25% to first. That's 42% ROI. You got Saraf at 20 minutes. I mean, I just use Stokastic's minutes to build my projections off of, and I usually don't tweak it unless I strongly disagree. But Saraf, okay, let's go to real fast. Because I thought Saraf stood out as a guy, like he seems like a nice fantasy asset. All right, so he played overall 20 minutes. The game had gotten away from them. Igor Demine played the blowout. But then they also brought in Nolan Traore. They're losing Drake Powell's minutes today because he's out. I think Saraf can get you to 25 minutes. But if you project him for 20 minutes, I actually didn't pull out the popcorn machine, sorry. I think Saraf can get you to 25 minutes. But I get why 20 feels safer. It's like, but he played 20 last game and he didn't get back on the court for all of the third and all of the fourth. And it's the Nets, so stupid shit happens. But he should have at least gotten this Cam Thomas length stint here where he gets like 5 or 6 more. I know your projections showed for Trey Johnson, but did he pass the eye test to you? I didn't see much of Trey Johnson, to be honest. I saw some of the Middleton because I had him. Real fast for Trey Johnson, just looking at his numbers. Trey Johnson shot unsustainably well in that game, 67% true shooting. The assist rate wasn't really high enough. Rebound rate, not high enough. The fact he's playing 24 minutes, I think, looks pretty good. And the fact as well that my projections giving him 25.7, like, I think speaks to him showing something. But I also feel like my projections are a little bit light on Keyshawn George. Bub Carrington's another guy, too, that did not play very well in the opener and should play better. I don't think Trey Johnson feels super sustainable to me, but he didn't look bad for one game. I mean, if you average 1.1 fantasy points when you're shooting well in one game, you might still put up like 0.9 in a game where you're just shooting normally. So he's not a bad play, but it does feel a little point chasey, I think. That's the video, guys. I'll give you guys my splash plays for the day, though I think at this point, with the hand build for the lineups, it should be pretty obvious. But show some love if you can, guys. Please subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a comment. Of course, I'm trying to do these videos every Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. Today, I'll also be on Stokastic's Live Before Lock at 6 p.m. Tomorrow, too, because Emacs out of town. I'm filling in for him. 6 p.m. tomorrow, too, I believe. So lots of NBA content coming out for me and the projections as well. Normally, I'm only updating them Monday to Friday because that's when I'm playing the slates. But because tomorrow I'll be doing content for it, I'll update the projections as well for Saturday. So please subscribe. If you want my data here, the stuff I show you on screen, join the Discord or join the channel rather, and you get access to the Discord that allows you to get my data sheets if you're on the correct tiers. And if you just want to hang out in the Discord, you want to support the show, $5 also does support the show and get you access as well. And Stokastic, 15% off. You guys know that. Promo code SPLASH. Evangelize on my behalf, please, because if people use that promo code, it supports the show in a huge way. And yeah, that's pluggy enough. All right, splash plays for the day. I think for me, Andrew Wiggins is super chalky, but he has to be one. Just we're trying to play the right plays right now. We're trying to take what's there. The other slate was PJ Washington at 3K. Wiggins is not that cheap, but he did play 32 minutes last game, and that was with some foul trouble, missing time. He could definitely get you to 33 minutes, 34 minutes today. I think Wiggins, with how he's played for the longer-term sample size, it does seem like good chalk today, even though 55% ownership for Andrew Wiggins doesn't feel the most fun with the Fields ownership. PJ Washington seems like another splash play for the day. Value guy, Jock Landale will definitely be one for me today. Kind of quickly eyeballing through again. I do like Wemby. I feel like Wemby's ownership seems light if it's going to be 12%. I think chasing that feels pretty good. Stephon Castle, still a guy I'll get some of, especially in lines without Wemby. John Morant, as long as he goes. And Towns again, to a lesser extent than some of those other guys, but I'll get some Towns. But I appreciate all you guys being here again. Make sure you hit that like button before you go. Check me out on Stokastic at 6 p.m. Come chat in the Discord. And I always gamble responsibly too, guys, even though it is money time here on this channel, and I am flashing a dollar bill with my face on it to you. But I appreciate you guys being here. Enjoy your weekends. Catch me whatever NBA streams you want this weekend. And good luck, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.